All right, hey, it's Rob, and I've got my Project Artemis hat on today because I am at the Computer Museum of America in Roswell, Georgia. I'm here primarily because they have an extensive Apollo space program exhibition here with like a three-quarter size mock-up of the lunar lander and a lot of the computer technology that we used to get to the moon in the first place is inside this museum. So let's check out what they got in here. All right, so remember the movie War Games with Matthew Broderick? I think this was the computer he had, is that the IMSI or whatever, that he was hacking all the airlines with and getting free flights. Man, that movie was a long time ago, but it is an enjoyable thing to watch if you haven't seen it in a while. They got a lot of cool stuff here at the Computer Museum of America, Roswell, Georgia, like a Sol computer. Who even knew what that was? We just saw, I think, the motherboard to an Apple computer. They've got video games here. This is Computer Space, one of, if not the first, official video game that showed up in an arcade. And, of course, the classic Pong. None of these were running, or maybe they don't even work, but still cool to see them. Anyway, this is their main Apollo space program exhibit. Lots of articles from the time of the moon landing and the space program in general. And they've got some pretty cool stuff here focusing on the technology that got us to the moon. They've got a, I don't remember what it was, three-quarter scale or something, lunar lander here you can see in the background. There's old Neil Armstrong right there. Fun fact, there are no pictures of Neil Armstrong on the moon. That's because Buzz Aldrin had the camera and he had a list of things he was supposed to take pictures of, and it never occurred to him to turn the camera in Neil's direction. There's video of Neil, of course, and I think Neil's in some, maybe in the background of a couple photos with his back to the camera, but they never took a full frontal photo of Neil, except you can see it in Buzz's visor. You can see the image of Neil. Anyway, we're walking on the moon here. And, yeah, they've got a lot of cool stuff, probably more appropriate for school-age kids, what have you. And there's, of course, the tinfoil that the lunar lander was covered in. I think that stuff is called Kaplan. That silver foil, it's like the thickness of 2 or 3 layers of normal aluminum foil. And if they got a hole in it, well, that would be the end of that. But they got some little cute mock-ups here of each one of the Apollo missions that landed on the moon. Of course, that would be 11, 12, 13 didn't make it. And then 14, 15, 16, and 17. Is that correct? Yeah, I think so. 6 times we landed on the moon. And we even played golf when we were there once. And coming around here to the other side of the lunar lander, I'm surprised we don't have the lunar rover in any of these little dioramas. That's, one of the most iconic, pieces of hardware. But that's pretty cute. They've got these little things set up here as you walk around the lunar lander. Of course, you've got the ascent stage and the descent stage, and the bottom half stays on the moon, and the top half goes up and meets with the spacecraft in orbit, and that's how the astronauts got home. There we go, walking on the moon again. Watch out for those craters. All right, so there's the typical kind of computer you would see back then with the tape spinning, a million revolutions a minute. This is, I think, a memory core, or the actual, like it would be the CPU of the computer for the lunar module, lunar lander. Of course, one of my favorite facts about the technology we used to land on the moon was the computer did not have enough memory to hold both programs fly to the moon and return to Earth. So they had to type in the directions on how to return to Earth once they got to the moon, they had to wipe out the instructions on how to get to the moon and then type in how to get back home. And these are modules and hardware that we used back then that made up the computing power, the awesome computing power of the Apollo space program. Right here, if I can see through what I'm looking at here, that's what they called the DSKY, DSKY, the display terminal for the lunar module, and that's where they would type in their commands and things like that. They had to, of course, do everything manually, and they had, like I said, very little memory. So they really had to be economical with, commands and, what they would choose to hold in these giant memory banks that they had. That's Margaret Hamilton, of course, who wrote a lot of the code for the Apollo missions. You often see that picture of her, and of course, one of the only female people of any note, associated with the space program. And we've, of course, made great strides in that since that time. And coming around here's a big old blown-up version of the DSKY, and they talk about the computer language, which, of course, is verbs and nouns. So verb 5 and noun 9 might, get you off of the moon, and verb 6, noun 10 might, turn on the landing lights or whatever. It's a pretty smart way that they did it, verb and noun, and it's pretty much the simplest way you can think to do programming if, you have to have astronauts doing it wearing spacesuits and that kind of stuff. And, so verb is launch and noun is spaceship, or verb is, land, and the noun is the moon, or whatever. So they had simple ways of explaining that stuff. I think this is one of the shuttle astronauts here. Not sure if it was one of the guys who passed away. That's Sally Ride. And up here we're going to see a little astronaut guy up top there. And, was there any more here? There was a little movie and things like that, and some trippy-looking supercomputer that had a crazy display going on. And all right, that was it. That was my visit to the Computer Museum in Roswell, Georgia. Check it out. All right, later.